It's all yours. Just tell us how things are going this week with the constitutional sheriffs. And I want to reiterate again that we're going to be working with you guys, living out a partnership in the days ahead that involves pastors and sheriffs. And tell us if you could tell us. I think we have a little bit of an idea of this. If you could tell us what the role of a constitutional sheriff is, because a lot of sheriffs don't understand what their authority is, especially in their own local communities. So,
Well, I wrote a book about that, and I highly recommend it for all of you. And it's called The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. And I actually wrote that in 2008. It was published in 2009. But the motivation for me writing it in 2008, do you remember who was running for president at that time in 2008?
Barack Hussein.
Okay, so there was Obama. Who else? Hillary and John McCain. And I
What a
said,
great
I
selection.
know. I said, Lord help us. And I said, there has to be something better for America than this. And the title of the book came to my mind, and I started writing it right then and there. And it took me a couple of months to finish. It's only 50 pages long, but it's extremely powerful. I should update it because it shows that the national debt then was, I think, 8 or 9 trillion. And of course, in in the next 14, 15 years, of course, it's up to 36 trillion. And but there was other things too that needed to be updated, and I'm going to do that right away. As soon as I'm done
Mhm.
procrastinating, I'll get it. But it's really something. But the book is very powerful in the sense that it reminds everyone, it reminds we the people and sheriff where the office came from, how long it's been around, and what is it today? What's the sheriff today? Especially when you look back at the history. Look at the sheriff back in the 1800s. What was he? Well, sometimes he was the only law anywhere close within hundreds of miles, especially as the United States expanded west. And so he was in charge of setting up juries and calling out juries. And he was the only real government that existed. And then some city started, forming city councils, and then the sheriff worked for and with them. But the thing of it is, the sheriff has always been the ultimate law enforcement authority for the last 1,000 years in any jurisdiction in which he existed. And it goes back to old Anglo-Saxon law, and three former sheriffs actually signed the Declaration of Independence. And I
Really?
remember
Wow.
one of them's name was Oliver Wolcott, Walcott. And I think he was from Connecticut. But regardless, the office of sheriff preceded the United States of America. And Thomas Jefferson called the sheriff the ultimate executive of the county, the highest executive of the county, the highest authority in any county anywhere in the United States, even before we became the United States. So he is now the only elected law enforcement officer anywhere in the entire country. Some say that the Attorney General of the United States is a law enforcement officer, and I think there's some truth to that. The Attorney General of each state, they say, is the highest law enforcement officer of the state. Maybe, maybe not. There's a few sheriffs that say that they report to the Attorney General and that he's their boss. That's an absolute falsehood. It might be a mistaken notion or it might be a lie. I don't know which. Either way, it's wrong. The
Right.
sheriff is appointed by, for, and of the people. That's what makes us a
Right.
constitutional republic, because the people decide who represents us. And we, the people, are the most important facet of the American government, the American republic. So, first of all, folks, let's make sure that we all understand one thing. I keep seeing these signs around, I keep seeing things on television: Save Democracy or Democracy 2024 by Fox News. And it's kind of funny that CNN and Fox both have similar mottos for what's going on. Uh, Democracy 2024. Well, all of the other leftist television stations, news, all believe that about Fox News. They all believe the same thing. So it makes me wonder where Fox News got that. Democracy is not synonymous with liberty or freedom. They are
Amen.
not the same. They're not even close to being the same. Okay. And as Ben Franklin called it, democracy is 3 wolves and a lamb voting what's for dinner. Well, in America, folks, the sheriff is required to protect the right of the lamb. And he's required to protect the rights of the individual. And even if it's just one person. And a good example would be that of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. If he had been the sheriff actually knew the townspeople were coming to lynch Tom Robinson. That should have been the sheriff sitting in that chair, not his lawyer. And the sheriff should have been standing against the community to save the rights of the individual. And that's the huge part, the huge difference between a democracy and a constitutional republic. In a democracy, the mob rules. And in a democracy, it's very dictatorial. After you get the majority and what they say, it's enforced with a gun. It's enforced by the force of government. In a constitutional republic, the rights of all people are respected, and the mob is not respected to take away the rights of any individual. So whether
Right.
it's
Amen.
whether it's a pastor having church during COVID or citizens refusing to wear masks, it's a requirement of the sheriff to defend all of that against the mainstream thought or the mainstream attacks on individual rights by wherever it comes from. It could be just other people who don't know any better, ignorant people, or it could be tyrants. But it's our job to stand against any and all of those, to stand against tyranny. To whom can the people turn when government, as Jefferson warned us, when all government shall be drawn to Washington as the center of all power, it will render powerless the checks provided and become as venal and oppressive as the government from which we separated. Well, folks, when government becomes venal and oppressive, to whom can the American people turn for peace, safety, and protection? That, my friends, is something that should be preached in every pulpit in this country. When government is trying to destroy the church or make the church what they said, not essential. When government makes that assertion and warns everybody that strip clubs and prostitutes can stay in business, but the church must shut down. Are you absolutely kidding me? And that some pastors were arrested, as we mentioned last time, and I call that the tale of two cities, because, or the tale of two sheriffs, because Sheriff Chronister in Florida arrested Pastor Rodney Howard Brown for having church. On the other hand, Sheriff Glenn Hamilton in New Mexico defended Pastor Caleb Cooper and kept his church open because he he got very creative and courageous, and he deputized every member of Pastor Cooper's church, and that's the type of courage and creativity we need today.
Amen. Amen.
So, but yes, I think that we do work hand in hand. In fact, I just spoke in Boise on Saturday at a church, and the pastor was wonderful. He prayed with me and the other speakers beforehand. Then he offered an opening prayer to the meeting that was open to the public, and it was absolutely wonderful.
Amen.
We had a sheriff candidate there from Boise, which is Ada County, ADA, and I'm wearing the hat of my good friend. And I wanted to remind all of you, there's a lot of sheriffs. Not every county is having sheriff elections this year, so your state might not be having them. But I would say about half of the sheriffs will be elected. So we're probably talking about 1,500 sheriffs that are up for election right now. You need to be talking to them. You need to be finding out which one really is the best constitutional sheriff candidate,
Amen.
and you need to be getting behind him.
Do you guys have a way of vetting sheriff candidates out around the country?
Yeah, I mean, I
That
give
you can,
suggestions, and we've had some of those written down. We have a survey on our. Are we still in the survey on it?
Survey, but it's just kind of
Anyway, there's a. It used to be a it used to be a survey, but we had those on our website. Also, the book, the County Sheriff America's Last Hope, will provide you with some good ideas to ask your sheriff. But it's real simple right now, especially because of what happened during COVID. Ask any candidate, would you have enforced it this way? Would you have enforced? There were over 550 sheriffs nationwide that refused to enforce any of the COVID mandates. So you could ask them. First, you might ask them this: if Kamala Harris becomes president and she comes to our counties or your county to confiscate guns, first of all, she will. There's not enough personnel in the military or the federal law enforcement community to go door to door in every county. They're going to be asking local chiefs of police and local sheriffs to help them. And I think that was the subterfuge behind my Supreme Court case. They made the Brady Bill aimed at sheriffs enforcing it to see how many sheriffs would go along. Most of them did. And so our lawsuit was done to protect sheriffs from federal incursions and federal overreach. So the same thing today, folks. Ask your sheriff, what would you do? What will you do? When? It's not if. When the federal government wants to come get our guns. And of course, Kamala is lying right now about, anybody enters my home, I'll shoot them. You know, why did she say that 3 or 4 or 5, 10 years ago? You know, she's never said that before, ever. So all of us know that she's a gun control fanatic. What will they do to protect the citizens and their right to keep and bear arms? Ask them flat out. Then ask them, were you sheriff during the COVID mandates? Where were you working at that time? Did you stand up against the mandates? Even if you were a patrol deputy at the time, what did you do to take a stand? Did you tell your sheriff we shouldn't be doing this? Did you tell anybody else that we shouldn't be doing it? Did you personally refuse to do it? Did you protect churches? And did you protect the right of pastors to keep their churches open?
Amen. Well, I think we have a good wedding of two organizations in America's Black Robe Regiment and the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, because the title of my briefing is "Revolutionary Pulpits: The Last Hope of a Dying Republic." So you got the was it the book title, County Sheriff: America's Last Hope, and we're saying the pulpit is really the Republic's last hope. So together we ought to be able to knock down some doors in a good way.
Absolutely. I think that the Sheriff Hamilton and Pastor Cooper are you met them in Orlando.
I did,
and they call their show the Sheriff Shepherd Show, And we can certainly glean from that if we want to, or just say pastors and sheriffs. I don't care what we call it, but I think it's a vital solution, and it's a peaceful one. And folks, there's
Yeah.
not very many peaceful, effective solutions anymore. There's not.
No, we're running
And-
out of them
And
very
this
fast.
is definitely one of them. Your sheriff, working with pastors and working with we the people and setting up posses and getting people prepared for what's coming is a vital part of this.
So is a posse anything akin to the 18th century militias that were established during the Revolution?
Of course.
Okay. I'm going to reach that out to.
It's the same principle. It's we the people
That's what I was thinking.
getting involved in it. Yeah.
We have to.
The word posse is just more palatable because the media made the M word, the militia, so evil from the
I know.
Oklahoma City bombing. And of course, even that was a lie, but they don't care. They'll keep going. That McVeigh was part of the militia. He was actually kicked out of the local militia that he tried to get in. So we should be complimenting and lauding all the militia that kicked him out. But
Amen.
when they have an agenda,
Well, I've already reached.
they won't let the truth get in the way.
I've already reached out to Pastor Cooper and told him I'd like to get him on this huddle. So he'll be coming up one of these weeks in the future. He's already agreed to do it.
I want to be here when he does. I absolutely
Okay.
love the
I'll make
guy.
sure you're there.
I love his family. He's got 2 really wonderful kids, and they were in Orlando. His wife and kids were there, and absolutely, I've become very good friends with all of them. I absolutely love them.
He's a courageous man.
Yeah.
So, folks, anybody got questions for Sheriff Mack? Just unmute yourself and fire away.
I brushed over it this time. I spent quite a bit of time on it last time, but don't forget, I became the first sheriff in American history to sue the federal government, take it all the way to the Supreme Court and win. 6 other sheriffs joined me in that lawsuit, and it was quite historical. And there's a lot in it that totally backs what we're talking about today. It's an absolutely astonishing case, and you should be getting those. I put the case in this little booklet. It fits in your shirt pocket, and it's only like 16 pages long, but it's real small. You can read it in 15 minutes, but you want to read it over and over and over, and you want to get a bunch of these. You should be passing these out to your congregations. Everybody should.
Where can we get that? Where can we get that?
At our website, cspoa.org.
Okay. Yeah. Folks, go out to his website.
I have several books there, so you'll see it. You make sure it doesn't really hit you hard when you see it, but when you see a white thing with all the state flags on it, it has all the state flags on it. So when you see that and then the name, Supreme Court case for state sovereignty, you'll love it.
So go to Sheriff Mack's website and order that.
So the local sheriff is the supreme law enforcement in my county above U.S. Marshals, FBI, all of them.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, well, that's what I understood.
Those other guys are bureaucrats.
Mm-hmm.
They have very little authority, very little. And in fact, while we're at this authority thing, there's only 5 law enforcement powers delegated by the states who originally formed the Constitution and formed the federal government. They were only allotted and granted and delegated 5 law enforcement authorities: treason, counterfeiting, felonies committed on the high seas or piracies. In Article 4, Section 4, it says they shall protect our borders from invasion, shall protect our borders from invasion, and then violations of treaties. Those are the only 5 law enforcement powers the federal government has. That's it. And then if they want to make themselves bigger and grant themselves more powers, they must be referred to the 10th Amendment, which doesn't allow for any of that.
Amen. So they could maybe they can make a big difference when it comes to enforcing our border.
maybe if they would try that and investigate treason, they would never get out of Washington D.C. if they start investigating treason.
No, there's no question about it. They wouldn't get out of the White House.
No, very true. Sad but true.
Okay, folks. Any questions for Sheriff Mack? Go ahead and unmute and fire away.
You said
There are no dumb questions.
That's right. Pastor
Okay.
Ruth.
yes. Hi, Sheriff. So anybody also, you can deputize any of pastors, or we have to be under our own sheriff here in California.
Yeah, Sheriff, and I'm pretty sure that this is the case. The law in Arizona and a few other states says that the sheriff could pasteurize. Make people pastors. That's what pasteurize is. Make people pastors.
We pasteurize.
Deputize, sorry. He could call out all able-bodied citizens to help him keep the peace in the county. And so that's the posse concept of the 1800s and some into the 1900s. But he still has that authority. And some state says, well, he has to get our permission to do that. And so, but the history of the office of sheriff is he can call out people, but they must, that part that it says people in his county, he can't pasteurize. What do I keep saying that to? He cannot deputize people outside his county. The sheriff where they live can, but or if they want to move to his county, let them move there, and then certainly they can be part of his posse.
Arizona.
And they must be sworn in too.
Okay, we're going there. No,
I have heard that Sheriff Mack that someone can be deputized by his sheriff and then carry weapons into Washington D.C.
Yeah, I don't go there too much. Could he do that? Look, we're pushing right now, Bill, and I don't know if I told you this, but we're really pushing having sheriffs and attorneys general, and we need to add to that governors to investigate traitors in Washington, D.C. And especially the easiest one would be to investigate politicians in Washington, D.C., public servants, whatever you want to call these crooks. Investigate them for aiding and abetting illegal immigration. That would be an easy crime. But the sheriff must prove in his investigation that it occurred in his county. That's something these people did, these crooks, these tyrants, these corrupt public officials, they must be able to prove that it did something in their county. Then for them to say, well, that we're going to serve you an arrest warrant. We will be delivering that to you at the White House next Thursday. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that way. So first, I would recommend the investigation, then have that turned over to the Attorney General of the state or to the county attorney or DA, any prosecutor in that county, and I'm sure then he would be referring it to the Attorney General's office, either at the state level or the United States level. And then if Garland were to defend any of the politicians in Washington, D.C. and say, no, you don't have the authority to do this, we do have the authority to do it. And if this has to come down to badge versus the badge, then so be it. But we have a lawful warrant for the arrest of Mayorkas. Let's say Mayorkas. Now, you can have him report to us, or we will send our SWAT team. But see, that's where this is going to come down to.
Right.
And I don't recommend just trying to march into Washington and go and picking up the president, because first of all, I think the Justice Department wouldn't allow it. But if you tell the Justice Department, we're going to arraign him in absentia then, so I suggest that he have his attorney here, or that he present himself to this. That's going to present a problem for the United States, and it's going to present a problem for the Democrats, because they are the ones that accused Donald Trump of not being above the law. Well, Kamala and Biden and Mayorkas and Garland, they're not above the law either. And if we have a legitimate investigation from a competent law enforcement authority in this state or in your state, and that's turned over to the county attorney for prosecution, and he goes to a judge and gets a warrant for the arrest of these people, and it could be congressmen, it could be other people, could be some other bureaucrats, could be FBI agents, then you know what? They're going to be in a hard spot. And it's obvious that the way that we judge the past, that they're going to defend these criminals. But once you go through the entire process of an investigation, of an information, of a county attorney reviewing it and issuing charges and getting a judge to sign off on it, that's going to be pretty hard to hold up on, especially after everything they've done to Trump.
Yeah. Just following your example.
Yeah, exactly. And so, folks, it is obvious that these people not only aided and abetted, but in some cases, they actually participated in making sure illegal aliens got here.
Well,
That's going to be pretty powerful evidence.
I don't know if you saw the debate last night, but it was hard. It was hard to endure.
Bill, there's just so much of that I can take.
I understand.
So, yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm looking for things to encourage me in those things, but rarely do I hear anything.
Right.
The Democrat vice president candidate, he was just lying through his teeth through the whole thing.
Well, I could have told you that was going to happen before, and I wouldn't need to watch it to be able to tell you that.
No, you're right. You're right. In fact, you probably could have told me what his answers were going to be to some of the questions before he spoke.
True.
Anyway, unless anybody else.
Yeah, if anybody has any other questions, please fire at will.
Go ahead, folks. Anybody have another question? Just unmute yourself and ask away.
So I'm currently a law enforcement chaplain with the police department suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. And my wife and I relocated out to a more rural area back last year. Actually good friends with a deputy sheriff, but I felt the Lord pulling to maybe be a chaplain at the sheriff's department. Do you recommend that? And what are steps that I can take to pursue that?
Yeah, sure. Some of them have them, and I think it's a great idea. Most of them are used in the jail or at departmental meetings, but to kind of teach the gospel to the inmates, and then pray at events and departmental meetings and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. We had departmental meetings every 3 months, and we didn't have a standing chaplain, but we always had somebody within our office that always opened with prayer. And if we were going on a dangerous assignment, we always said prayer first, and a chaplain would have been most welcome to have done and participated in all of that. So yeah, I think if you go and talk to them, it's all a positive. I think that helps both sides, and it's wonderful. Sometimes the posses actually appoint a chaplain.
Mm-hmm. What does the term posse comitatus mean?
Power to the county.
Okay. I've heard the term, just never knew what it meant.
Yeah, and the posse comitatus actually was a law passed in like 1887 that said that military cannot be used in domestic situations, like Waco or Ruby Ridge. When they brought in military equipment, that was all illegal, contrary to Posse Comitatus Act.
Wow. I don't see any more hands up or anybody chiming in.
And by the way, Jerry Sheridan and other candidates, I was helping a candidate in Ada County. That's why I went there and gave these presentations. And that's Doug Traubel, Traubel. And then we have good candidate in Kootenai County, Dan Wilson. And then Jerry Sheridan in Maricopa County right here in Phoenix. All of them are good friends of mine, and I'm working my tail off to get them in office. And we have another guy that's running in Brazoria County, Texas, Kevin Henry, and I've endorsed several others across the country. But we're really pushing this constitutional county concept and
Good stuff.
constitutional sheriff
Good stuff. Good stuff.
concept. So, yeah.
Excellent. All right, folks, if there's no more questions, I'm going to end this this meeting. Thank you, Sheriff Mack, for being with us. What's your website again?
CSPOA.org stands for Constitutional Sheriffs Peace Officers Association. CSPOA.org. Folks, there's lots of ammunition there for you to use however you like.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, sir. God bless you all. Thanks for coming today. Have a great rest of your week.
Bless you.
Thanks, guys. Love you.